Hi everyone, and welcome to the Scrap and Create channel. This is Christine here, and I am going to be sharing a 3 series of videos showing how I'm going to be putting together an 8x8 mini album using Graphic 45's brand new Princess collection. This collection is absolutely magnificent, and I was so excited to get to work with it. And what I did is I purchased the Graphic 45 Princess collection from scrapandcreate.com. That's scrap, the letter N, and then the word create all together.com. If you purchase the bundle, that will include the 12 by 12 paper, the 12 by 12 patterns and solids, the 8 by 8 paper pad, and then the ephemera, the chipboard, and then you get 2 sticker sheets here, and then you get the tags and pockets, which and we'll get to all those fun goodies once we get to decorating the album. For now though, this is going to be part 1 of this 3-part tutorial series where we're going to be making the pages of the album. Now, I have already created a tutorial for you guys on how to create the book that you're going to need. It's the same size as you're going to need for this particular album, as well as the pocket pages, the base pages, if you will. So I will link you below to that video tutorial. It is on the Scrap and Create channel, and it's actually the part 1 of my Flutter tutorial. So this is the same exact size as the Flutter album that I created. So your album is going to be 8.5 by 8.5. The spine's 2.5 by 8.5. There's the back. We have the hidden hinge binding system with 4 pages. And then here are those pocket pages, which are 8 by 8. So these are the pages that we're going to be creating in this first part of the video tutorial series for Princess. In the second part, we will be decorating the album with the designer series paper, and then the third part will be the walkthrough. The walkthrough of the album, the completed album, will probably be uploaded first. So you will probably be able to see that, to then, be able to watch that, see what the album looks like, so then you can decide if that's a tutorial you'd like to watch. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. To create this album, you're going to need, like I said, the collection from Scrap and Create. The bundle is the best in making an album this size because I have used almost all of the patterns and solids and almost all of the 12 by 12 and even a few sheets of the 8 by 8. So it's a really good idea if you want to make an album this size to go ahead and purchase the whole entire packet. When you do that, you get little extra goodies from Scrap and Create. You get some ribbons that coordinate with the collection, and you get some beautiful charms. And we will get into these in part 2 of this series when I decorate the album. So that's kind of an incentive, and they really do spoil us at Scrap and Create. They really do send really nice, high quality, extra items just to thank you for purchasing through them. So I really appreciate that. The other items that you're going to need for this part of the tutorial, you're going to need a ruler, your Tim Holtz ruler. I always recommend having a ruler. Obviously, a paper trimmer and a scoreboard. We're going to be probably in part 2, before we decorate is when we're going to add our magnets. So I recommend the basic gray magnets. You can get these at Scrap and Create, and they come in 2 different sizes, but I always use the small. The big ones are really good for if you have like a whole bunch of large items that you need to stick together. Most of the time you're safe with just the small magnets. So we'll be using these, and we'll be applying the magnets in video number 2. You will need some score tape. My favorite size, and the size that I use for all of my attachments, the flips and flaps and pockets, is 3/8 of an inch score tape. You could also use 1/4 of an inch. If you have that, you can use 1/4 plus 1/8 of an inch if you have those 2 sizes, but 1/2 inch will be too large for the construction of the pages for this album. So you want to use the 3/8 if you have it. It's the perfect size. When we get to part 2, where we'll be decorating the album, I use art glitter glue to apply all of my designer paper. So you'll want to have that. You can get this at Scrap and Create. In my opinion, it is the best glue on the market. It's acid free, of course. It dries clear. It's not toxic, and it's wonderful, and it sticks. I even glue down, which I'll show you in part 2 of this video tutorial, I even glue down metal embellishments with this stuff. It is that powerful. So definitely recommend that. You can buy the small bottles at Scrap and Create. I recommend getting the additional little tip here that comes with a pin. It keeps the glue from clogging, and also you can get a really thin line of glue with this metal tip here. So if you just want to apply just a tiny little bit of glue, this is the perfect mechanism for that. And then you can buy larger bottles of refill to pour back into this small bottle, and you can get all of that at Scrap and Create. You'll probably want a pencil, some scissors, a bone folder, of course, in creating this project. And then optional is a border punch. This is a deep Martha Stewart border punch. I think it's called Lattice Trellis or something like that. I thought it just went really good with the theme of the papers, but this is optional. Your measurements will be the same whether you're using the punch or not. So you don't have to worry. The only thing that would be different is when we get to part 2 and I give you the measurements for the designer paper. If you did not use the deep border punch, you're just gonna have to measure that yourself and figure out, you know, your designer paper size. But the base pages and the flips and flaps will be the same size whether you're using the border punch or not. Okay, so without any more chit chat, let's go ahead. Oh, I do have to say one more thing. I designed some pockets, some fun pockets in this album, and I used the Graphic 45 regular black tags to as some of the embellishments for the album. And you can get these at Scrap and Create. And then I also used this regular tag die, which is amazing. When we get to part 2, I'll show you how I use these. I just thought it was kind of something fun and different, and try to bring you something a little different with each tutorial that I do. Everyone kind of has a style, so I know that my albums are gonna look kind of similar to each other, but I do try to bring some new techniques and something new every time that we get started, or every time I get started with a new album. I try to think of some new or different things to do to make it just a little bit different from albums that have come before. Okay, so remember, you can catch how to make the book and the pages in the first video for the Flutter tutorial, and I will again link that below, so you will be able to take a look at that. And then let's just go ahead now and get started with our flaps and pockets. I'm going to set the book aside because I like to work with my pages outside of the book until I have everything that I need attached. So if you want to go ahead and put your pages in your book and work that way, that's fine. I'm going to set my book aside though and work on the pages first. I do put them in the book though before I decorate. So I'll put them in after this first video series. This first part 1, I mean. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab our first pocket page. Remember when you're working that your pocket pages have openings, and you want to make sure that those openings are always on the side. If you start working and you have this in the wrong orientation, then everything's going to be wrong, and because it won't attach to your book this way. Does that make sense? So this, this pocket here is what's going to attach to our binding, and this pocket here is what is going to give us a side pocket for a big photo mat pullout. So I always just kind of keep that in mind as I'm working and make sure that I have my orientation of my paper correct. And I'll turn this a lot to get better vantage points so I can really line up the flaps and things that I'm adding, and that's fine. Just always keep in mind that when you turn it back to the correct orientation, those 2 openings need to be on the left and on the right. All right, I'm trying to clear out. I have a lot of my tools up here, so I'm trying to make it as clear for the camera as I can. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I have a little notebook here with all of my measurements. Now I do have a caveat here, all right? The caveat is that I have not made this album yet. So I am making this, I've planned it all out, pre-cut everything, and I think I have everything ready to go. But I've never done a tutorial this way before. I've always completed the album and then just made it again for you guys on camera. So this is the first time that I'm doing it kind of live, if you will, as I'm making it. So bear with me if there's any mistakes. I'm going to apologize ahead of time, but hopefully I've planned it all out properly. Okay, so remember, each base page gives us, there's 4 base pages, and they each give us 2 pages. Page 1 is going to be on the front, page 2 on the back, and then so on as we go through the rest of our base pages. So to start with page 1, we are first going to start with a flap on the right. Now I have all of my pieces pre-cut. Most of them are pre-taped, so I'm gonna bring them over, but we're gonna go through every single piece as we go along. So you can set your base page to the side for a moment, and we're gonna cut, score, and tape up all of the flaps and pockets and doodads that are gonna go on this page 1, all right? So we're first gonna have this flap here. And this flap, I'm calling this the right flap. It's going to eventually attach to the page like this, alrighty? And it's gonna open like so, okay? Base page, right flap. So this is right flap number 1. The measurement for this, and again, all of these measurements will be in the description box of this video below, so you can just print that out. You don't have to kind of remember or take notes as I'm going along here. You can print that out. You could even pre-cut everything before starting this tutorial if that's helpful, because I have done that myself. All right, so the measurement for right flap number 1 is, let's see, wait a minute, this doesn't look right. That's because it's not right. See what I mean? I knew I'd make a couple mistakes. We will be working with this flap in a moment, but we're gonna do a different flap first. This is actually going to be right flap number 2. We'll get to this in just a moment. Right flap number 1 is right here. All right, and this is going to measure 7 inches by 8 inches. And on the 7-inch side, we're gonna score at 1/2 inch. And then go ahead and put your 3/8, if you have it, score tape on that fold, okay? Always make sure that when you're putting your tape down, you give it a nice burnish, and also burnish all of your folds as we're going along, okay? That will just help everything fold properly. Now this we're calling right flap 1, and I'm so sorry for the confusion at the beginning. This is right flap number 1. It is 7 inches wide by 8 inches tall. On that 7-inch side, you're scoring at 1/2 inch. All right, we are going to put a pocket on top of this small flap. That pocket is going to measure 7.5 by 4 inches. On the 7.5 inch side, you're gonna score at 1/2 inch on each side, and on the 4-inch side, you're gonna score at 1/2 inch. So for all pockets, you're gonna be scoring at 1/2 inch on 3 of the 4 sides. So hopefully that makes sense. This is where, if you want to, before you do the actual folding of your pocket, you can run your border punch along the top if you choose to use that in the design of your album, which, as you can see, I did, but that's totally optional. Okay, so this pocket is going to go at the base of this flap, right flap number 1. You're going to want to make sure when you set it, when you lay it down, that it's up against the right end, the left side of this right flap, so it lines right up with the left side of this flap. There's one more element that we are going to be adding to this right flap number 1. And that is a small flap, which is going to measure 4 3/4 by 3 1/4. So that is going to look like this: 4 3/4 by 3 1/4. On the 4 3/4 inch side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch, and that's simply going to go right about there. Okay, so let's go ahead and adhere our pocket down first to the top of this flap. If you notice, I have my flap in the folded position, and I'm doing that intentionally because I want to make sure that when I lay this pocket down, I'm not going over this score line. If I had this laid out, it might be possible for me to make a mistake and accidentally put my pocket a little bit over this score line. And I don't want to do that. So I just go ahead and put mine in the folded position. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take off a little bit of the sides of the score tape on the side, the short ends, the short sides of the pocket. The reason that I do this is because when we come back to decorate, we want a clean finished look to our pages. And so we want our designer paper to slip nicely behind the pocket. So what we'll do is we'll adhere the entirety of the bottom in a moment of this pocket, plus the little bit of the sides, all right, to the top, to the flap here. And then in part 2, when we come back and decorate with the design paper, we'll be able to slide our design paper right down. It'll look nice behind this pocket, especially if you have an open punch like this. You certainly want your design paper to come nicely behind that and cover that up. Then we'll be able to just remove the rest of this backing, and we'll do that in part 2 of this video tutorial series. For now, I'm just going to pull a little tiny bit of the backing of the bottom off. The entirety will come off in a moment. I like to pull just a little bit off so I can get things nice and straight and then I pull the rest of it off when I have it exactly where I want it. So see, I have just this left end down, but I have wiggle room on the right to kind of get this perfectly lined up against the bottom of right flap number 1. I'm going to remove the tape now because I have the tape backing because I have it exactly where I want it. And I'm going to go ahead and burnish this down. So here's right flap number 1 with the pocket. All right, and again, that pocket is left open mostly on the sides intentionally so we can decorate easier. We're also going to add the small flap, alrighty? And that's just gonna go, you know, just somewhere above the pocket on the right-hand side of the right flap number 1. So there's no exact placement for this. I'm going to turn my flap this way just so I can get it nice and positioned and lined up with the edge. Just make sure, again, I have mine folded, right? I have my flap folded so I don't go over the score line, and I can get this lined up right up against the edge of this flap. So this small flap's going right on top of right flap number 1, and I'm going to pull off the rest of the backing now because I have that nice and lined up where I want it. Again, there's no specific measurement for this one. Somewhere above the pocket, and you know, anywhere you want really. Just make sure it doesn't overlap the pocket. Okay. Now we want to turn our right flap over. We are now on the inside of the right flap. Here's that score tape because here's the flap folded. If the flap was open, here's what it looks like, and here's that score line. Okay, so we got to stay clear of that score line, right? Because otherwise the flap won't turn. So this is the inside of the right flap is what I'm going to call it. Again, this is right flap number 1, and this is the inside of right flap number 1. You are going to have 2 pieces. They are going to be the same size, and they are going to measure. Let me open them up for you guys so you can see better. These are exactly the same, okay? They're going to measure 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. And on the 4 3/4 inch side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch, okay? These are going to go right up against the right side of the inside right flap number 1. And we're going to make a little booklet. So this is going to go here, and then this one's going to go here. So it's going to kind of accordion fold out. And that'll make more sense in a moment. So I'm going to turn my right flap to the side here so I can get my first one positioned down and laying down right where I want it. I kind of want this centered, so I'm going to grab my ruler really quick here. And it's probably going to be about maybe 3/4 inch from, maybe an inch even, no, about 3/4 inch from the bottom and the top. You can eyeball it though, or just if you want to just make it off center, then you don't have to worry at all about it being straight. That's kind of a nice get around of having it be absolutely centered. I'm going to eyeball mine though, and I have it pretty centered here, and I'm just going to line it up again right against the edge. Remember, we're in the inside of right flap number 1, and we're putting this first one down right up against that right edge of the inside of the flap. All right, burnish that down. Now the other piece that's exactly the same size is going to go right on top of this one on the left. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to peel off just a little bit of the backing of the score tape. I'm going to turn it this way so I can really see, and I want this perfectly on top of the mat below it. So you can want to make sure before you peel off the rest of that backing that it's lined up against the edge, and then it's lined up on this edge as well. So check here and check here. Okay, this looks good, so I'm going to pull off the rest of the backing and then give this a nice burnish. And this is what I mean now by this being a little booklet. See? So it kind of pulls out like so. A little tiny accordion. So you have lots of space here. Okay, so that is the inside of our right flap. Okay, now we are moving on to right flap number 2. So set this one aside for a moment. And then this is the one that I tried to start us with. All right, this is right flap number 2. This is going to measure 8 5/8 by 8 inches. On the 8 5/8 inch side, you are going to score at 1/2 inch and at 5/8 inch. This is a little bit tricky. It's not hard, it's just tricky. I'm gonna pull this up here so you guys can see. When you have 2 score lines that are that close to each other, the best way that I have found to fold them is I use my Tim Holtz ruler. There's 2 different ends to the Tim Holtz ruler. There's this end, and then there's this end, which is kind of sharp. I dig the sharp, I have my paper down, And then I dig kind of the sharp edge, right, I put it right up against the score line and then fold. And then I do the same thing at the other score line. And that gives me this tiny little, can you guys see that there? It's a tiny little gusset. It's an 1/8 inch gusset that just gives us a little bit more room for stuff to go underneath this flap. Now, once you have those score lines done, I purposefully left the score tape off this one for a reason, because I want to show you. You only put score tape on the 1/2 inch. So you have a 1/2 inch and then a score line and then an 1/8 of an inch and a score line. You do not want any score tape on that little 1/8 inch gusset. So this tape is only going to be on this 1/2 inch portion. So between the edge of the paper and the very first score line. Okay? That's it. That's all, the only place you're going to put the tape. You don't want it in that gusset. Okay, now we're going to do some stuff to this right flap before we adhere it to our base page. So on the, we're going to do a pocket on the inside of this right flap number 2. So what we're going to do is, yeah, there we go. Okay. So we have right flap number 2 and we're doing a pocket right along the bottom. The top we're going to leave plain. Also, I have added a little notch here, as you can see. To do that, I just used my envelope punch board and line it up. Go ahead and put it into the envelope punch board and line the left edge of the paper at the 4-inch mark. And then you push this button down. And that just gives you a little notch. It's just something decorative that I sometimes do with my mini albums. And that's how I did that. And that'll also be in the written instructions as well. So we're going to flip right flap number 2 over. So we're now on the back. If it's in the folded position, here's the score tape. Remember, we have that little 1/8 inch gusset. I'm going to open it up, but remember to steer clear. So here's that got little first score mark, second score mark, score tape on the back. Stay clear of all of the score marks when adhering this pocket. This pocket measures 9 inches by 4 inches, and then you'll score, of course, on 3 sides to create the pocket. Again, optional to do the punch work if you want to. And again, it's going to go right here. Make sure it's up against the right side of this flap, because we do not want it interfering with the score lines on the left. So what we're going to do is the same thing we did with the first pocket. We're just going to take a little bit of tape off the sides, the short ends. Okay, and then we'll in a moment be taking all of the tape off of the bottom, but I'm just going to take a little bit off for a second. And just to help me get this nice and lined up. Okay, so again, you want it perfectly lined up with the right edge and the bottom of the inside of right flap number 2. That looks good. It is not interfering with my score lines at all. And that fits like a glove. It fits perfectly. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to turn it so I can wiggle it and then pull the rest of the backing of the score tape off and give it a nice little burnish there. Okay. Okay. So this is going to be attached to our base page like so. And then this little flap, the first flap that we did, is going to go on top of that. Before we do that, however, let's go ahead and do the couple flaps we're going to do on our base page. We have 2 flaps for our base page. Flap number 1 is 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. On the 4 3/4 inch side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Flap number 2 is 4 3/4 by 3 1/4, and on the 4 3/4 inch side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. And these are just going to go, honestly, there's not, really a right or wrong to how these are going to go. You can honestly place them wherever. I'm putting mine about centered this one and then this one to the left, like so. Can you guys see that? Does that make sense? But I don't have specific measurements for you because it's really not It's not specific. It's honestly wherever you want these little flaps to go. This is just going to be a nice page spread here for photos. And then these flaps are just some extra little fun. And also they let us use the beautiful, beautiful artistry of this paper as well. So I'm just going to eyeball this and center this across the top. I have it perfectly lined up against the edge of the top. Again, I flipped it upside down, right? So I could see better and get this nice and lined up, but I made sure that my page is in the correct orientation, meaning that those side pockets are on the left and right. So that's just something to always keep in mind as you're working doing mini albums. All right, so this is our little, whoops, yep. Sometimes not all that score tape comes off. It gets caught a little bit. So let me just peel the rest of that off there. There we go. Okay, so there's this first flap, and then let's do the second flap for the base page, and it's just going to go anywhere on the left that you want. We don't have a pocket to interfere on this particular page, so you could put it down here even if you want. The way I designed mine is these are going to share a magnet, so I have mine being slightly overlapped by the first larger flap. Okay, and that's going to give us a nice burnish, and there we go. Okay, so this is the base page. Now it's time to attach the other flaps to the base page. We're going to start with right flap number 2. Remember, we have this 1/8 inch gusset. This is a very, very important. This is the first time I'm showing this. It's not hard, but it just takes a minute to think it through. You want to push it out so that gusset is flat, okay? So you just have the 1/2 inch on the bottom. The gusset's now up here because I've just folded it, okay? And what we're gonna do, I'm gonna turn my base page this way, and we're just gonna line this up and adhere it down perfectly to the base page. Okay, so I'm gonna take just a little bit off. Remember, it's hard to see with the black on black, you know, the black cardstock, but I have folded so that 1/8 inch is up here, these 1/8 inch gussets up here. So all that's on the bottom is that 1/2 inch space where we put our score tape. And then we're gonna go ahead and line this up perfectly to the far right side of our base page, remembering to keep those side pockets opened. So don't accidentally, in other words, adhere this to and close up your pocket. I have done that before, so I just try to kind of remind folks of that. Sometimes as we're working, it can be really easy to just make mistakes. Luckily, there's undo, right? Undo is a fabulous invention. Okay, so now that I have this nice and lined up, I'm going to pull off the remainder of the backing of the score tape. It got a little stuck on me and ripped, so let me just pull the rest of it here off. There we go. And let's line it up here. Okay. So now that it's nice and folded on top of the base page, now you can push it back. And by pushing it back, we now have that nice little 1/8 inch gusset. So this page will actually allow things to go in this pocket, things to go here, and there's a little bit of this gusset here now on the edge, just to give us a little more room to have things inside. So you have to play with it for a minute, just get those score lines kind of acclimated to doing what you want them to do. But once you get it nice and set up here, you'll have a really nice little gusset, and it'll just lift up off the page. So let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm gonna pull this up. I don't even know if it's gonna show up very well, but so you have this little tiny gusset here. So this is actually sits up a little bit on the page because you have this little bit of extra space. And then this opens up, and here of course is your pocket, and then this is the base page, okay? So now we wanna put our last right flap, which is right flap number 1, on top of here. At this point, we want to now push it the other way. So fold it so that that 1/8 inch gusset is on the bottom. I'm not making a new score line or anything like that. I'm just kind of folding on these lines and pushing and melding the paper so that I can set this this flap rather, right on top of this page without it being attached to the little 1/8 inch gusset, because you don't want to attach this to the 1/8 inch gusset, because then you've ruined your gusset and you've done all that work for nothing. So we want to just attach this to the top of the flap. So I have folded the gusset so it's along the bottom. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to turn my page this way. Here's my right flap number 2. I'm going to go ahead and take off a little bit of this backing of the score tape. And then again, I have this folded so that the gusset is on the bottom. And what I'm doing is just simply lining this right up against the edge of this flap. So right flap number 1 is going right on top of right flap number 2. Make sure it's even with the top and bottom of right flap number 2 and this edge. It looks good to me, so I'm going to pull off the backing of the rest of the score tape and give it a nice burnish. Now, what I can do is I can push this up. So now that 1/8 inch gusset is active again. See, I just pushed it back up. I had folded it down, now I pushed it back up. So we have all of this space now. So we have little flap here, pocket here, our little booklet here. We have a beautiful spread here for photos or paper or a combination of both. Then this opens and we have this beautiful pocket and flaps here. Okay, so that's a pretty busy page number 1. Our page number 2 is going to be much simpler. So let's go ahead, and if you would like, you can take a sticky note or just write on your pencil, write on your paper with a pencil, because we're going to cover it all with design paper anyway, page number 1. And again, make sure now that the gusset is even. Okay, so it's folded properly now, and that gusset is there. That 1/8 inch gusset is there. You can see how thick it is now, and it just gives us a little extra space. I should have said at the beginning, this gusset is optional. As you've seen in my other tutorials, I hadn't shown you how to do that yet, just because it is a little bit more, it's not hard. I don't want to say that it's hard. It's just a little bit more steps. I like to do it in my personal albums because I like to fill mine up. But if you weren't, going to fill this to the brim with stuff, you might be able to leave that out. But I wanted to show you how to do it, because that's how I'm going to do this album, and I like to show you exactly how I'm doing it, just in case you like to follow along. Okay, so we are done with page 1. We are moving right along to page 2, which is super easy. And by super easy, I mean super easy. We have a pocket, and that's it. Yay! So this pocket is going to measure 9 inches by 5 inches, and then you're going to score it 1/2 inch on 3 sides. Again, optionally, you can do this punch work if you like. Remember, this is page 1, so this book is going to be like this on our hinge, right? This page, rather, is going to be in our book like this. So it's going to flip over like this. So our hinge is over here. I'm going to go ahead and place my side. This is going to be a side pocket, and it's going to go on the right side. So the side that butts up against the hinge. Okay, so I'm going to turn this way, and all we have to do is adhere this pocket to page number 2, which of course is the back of page number 1, and is our first base page unit. I'm going to tear off just a little bit of the short ends, and again, that's for design paper purposes, for decorating later. Okay, and then I've pulled off just a little bit of the backing. Again, make sure you don't accidentally seal up your side pocket there. And then this pocket's going right on top of page number 2, butted up against the right side. So it's a side pocket. Right now, it doesn't look like it because I have it in the wrong orientation, so I can get it nice and lined up here. Okay, that looks good. Let me just wiggle it a little bit. See, this is why I only pull a little bit first of that score tape backing off, because I don't always place things perfectly, on my first try. So if I give myself that wiggle room, I can fix it without having to grab the undo or pull it off or anything like that. Okay, so this is page number 2, and it's a side pocket only. Okay, so very simple. Usually if I do a really complicated on one side, I keep it really simple on the other. It just helps keep the bulk down since it's already really bulky from the front. All right, so this is going to be a side pocket, and this is page number 2. If you want to keep things straight, you can use a sticky or write down on the page itself. And we are done with our first page unit. This is our first base page, and this is ready to go in our book, unless you'd like to decorate before placing it in the book. That's completely up to you, but page 1 and 2 are done, okay? So we can set that aside. Now we need to bring over a second base page unit. Again, remember just to keep in mind the orientation and keep those side pockets on the sides and cleared. And now it's time to move on to page number 3. All right, page number 3 is a little bit more complicated again, okay? It kind of goes complicated, easy, complicated, easy. That's kind of the pattern that I did with this one. Although hopefully none of it's hard. I try to design these so that anybody can make these. If you just follow me step by step, even if you've never made a mini album before, I hope that you guys would be able to do this. That's my goal anyway. If you have any questions, by the way, at all, please just leave a comment here on the Scrap and Create YouTube channel. I check it often, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions. And sometimes if I miss it, Daphne or Julie, who are the owners of Scrap and Create, will tag me and I'll be able to answer your questions that way. So I'm always available to answer any questions that you may have. Okay, so let me just get the first part that we're going to be working with here. And this is a left flap. I'm going to call this left flap. And this is the same exact page style as the flap that we did on page number 1, right flap number 2. So it's the same idea, okay? It's the same kind of idea with that little punch that we did with the envelope punch board. It's just going a different way. It's on the left this time as opposed to the right. So this measures 8 5/8 by 8, and you are scoring on the 8 5/8 inch side at 1/2 inch and 5/8 of an inch. I'm going to fold so that the 1/8 inch gusset is on the table. Okay, so that 1/8 inch gusset's on the table. I've just folded it down. And so now all that's left is that 1/2 inch space where I'm going to add my 3/8 of an inch score tape. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and burnish the score tape. I got a little bubble there, so let's burnish that. Okay, so now we got that taped. On the front of this, we are going to have 2 pockets. They are going to measure, whoops, here they are. They're going to measure 5 inches by 5 inches. And then you're going to score on 3 sides at 1/2 inch. And then of course you can do optional punching if you like. And these are going to go on the side here. However, I'm not going to do these now because I'm going to wait until I have put down my design paper. So these will be adhered in part number 2 of the video. Okay, but just to give you an idea of where this page is going, these are 2 separate little pockets. Okay, and these are what I was showing you at the beginning where I use those regular graphic 45 tags, which I can't seem to find right now, but they fit perfectly in here. And I just thought it was something fun and different. We'd use those. So here they are. So that's kind of was my idea for creating these little pockets. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a little paper clip. I'm going to paper clip these little pockets together. I'm going to grab a sticky note and I'm going to write on this, just simply, if I can find my pencil, I'm just going to write page 3 front pockets. I can't seem to find my pencil right now, so I'm just going to grab a pen. Page 3 front pockets. And I'm just going to set these aside because again, as I stated, these are going to go on top once I have my design paper down. Okay? All right, so let's set those aside. Now we're going to take our left flap. So all we've done so far really is just cut this out and put our score tape. We're going to open this up now. So this is our left flap. Remember, we have it in the closed position. There's an 1/8 inch gusset. Open it up. There's 2 score lines there that make the 1/8 inch gusset, and this is the 1/2 inch where the tape is. On the inside of the left flap, we have a flap that is 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. So 4 3/4 by 6 1/4, and on the 4 3/4 inch side, you score at 1/2 inch. And that is going to go, let me just check my notes. I just want to make sure I have this in the right spot. That is going to go, we are on page 3. Yeah, in the center, yes, in the center of the flap. Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. I thought so, but I I just needed to make sure. Okay, so this is just going to be centered along the inside of this left flap. So I'm just going to flip it upside down. Just gives me a better vantage point here. I'm going to peel off some of the backing of the score tape. And then we're just going to center this. I'm just going to eyeball it. It's about, oh, maybe half an inch, 3/4 of an inch from either side. And just line it straight up against this top edge of this flap. I'm going to go ahead and pull the rest of the backing off. I have it where I want it. Give it a nice burnish. All right, so there's our left flap on top of our left flap. So here's our left flap. You open it, and then there's another flap inside, okay? The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a right flap. So go ahead and set your left flap aside for a moment. All right. Okay. So set your left flap, your right flap, the left flap aside for a moment, and then we're going to grab our right flap. Our right flap is going to measure 7 inches by 8 inches. On the 7-inch side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. So go ahead and do that and place your score tape on the back. All right. So let me just double check. Yep, 7 by 8. Score at 1/2 inch. Okay. There's going to be a small right flap on the side of the right flap. And that is going to measure 3 3/4 by 4 1/4. That's this one here. I'm sorry, this one. 3 3/4 by 4 1/4. On the 3 3/4 inch side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch, and that's going to go somewhere around there. But let's lay our pocket down first because we have a pocket on top of this flap as well. All right, so this pocket is going to measure 7.5 by 4.5, and then you're going to score on 3 sides at 1/2 inch, and then of course you have the optional punching at the top. And this, like I said, is going to go right on top of this right flap. So I like to put, when I have a little flap somewhere, I always like to put my, you know what, maybe this was supposed to go here. Let me just check my notes one more time. Sorry, guys. We are on page 3. On the page 3, right flap front. Pocket, right front back. Okay, so this is gonna go, I see what I did. Okay, this is gonna go, yeah, okay. I see what I did. We want this, okay? We want this to be 3 1/4 by 4 3/4. On the 4 3/4 inch sides, you want to score at 1/2 inch, okay? And then this is gonna go here, like so. So I just had it in the wrong orientation. Wait a minute. What was I thinking? It's so hard. I've never done a mini album this way. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, so let's go ahead and just put our pocket down first. Let's do that. Let's put our pocket down first. Let's take the little tiny bit of the tape off of the short sides. And then in a minute, we're going to take the entirety of the tape off the long side. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to have my flap folded so I don't go over that score line, and I am just going to make sure I line this pocket up with the left side of this flap, because again, we don't want it to interfere with the flap and score line over here. And it doesn't. That actually fits quite perfectly. So we'll just pull that backing off and then give it a nice burnish. So this is the inside, the outside rather, the top of our right flap. Now we have 3 3/4 by 4 1/4. Okay. See that? I don't know what I was thinking, but we're going to use this one And we're gonna, you know what? Just leave it like this for now. And when we get to decorating, before I will come back and figure out what I've messed up. Okay, on the right flap on the back, so turn it over now. So the right flap is in the open position. We have 2 flaps that are 4 3/4 by 3 1/4. And on the 4 3/4 inch side, you're scoring at 1/2 inch. So we have these 2 right here that are exactly the same. And these are just gonna go like so. All right. So let's go ahead and double check that that is in fact what I want to do. Page 3, right flap back. That way and that way. Okay. All right, just 1 second. I think I've got this figured out now. Right flap back. Okay, I've got it. I've got it figured out. All right. Okay, so what we're gonna do is one of these is going to go, these are the 2 little cut aparts that I had planned for the back of this page. So this is gonna go like this and this is gonna go like this. Okay, that's it. All right, so I just wanted to make sure I had it right now. Okay, and I do. So sorry about that, guys. All right, we have it. We have it together. All right. Okay. So you have all of my papers pre-cut and planned, but even the best laid plans, right? Sometimes you gotta just double check and make sure everything's okay. So let's do the right flap first. And this one is going to go, I'm going to turn my flap this way. It's going to go about here. There's no exact measurement for this. Honestly, wherever you want it, just make sure it's lined up against this edge here. Go ahead and pull that backing off. All right, and now we have this one, which is going to go right along the top here, and it's going to lay on top of this flap. So let's go ahead and peel the backing of this off. I'm going to open this one for a moment, and then we're just going to make sure that this is even. Again, don't go over the score line, so come in some, and it's just going to be lined up right against the top of this base page, or this flap rather. I'm sorry, not base page, but flap. Okay. So here is our right flap. Okay, so now we are good to go. So what we need to do now is attach our right flap and then our left flap to our base page, and then we will be done with page number 3. So we're going to attach our right flap first. And again, I will figure out, there's something that goes here. I will figure that out and let you know when we get to video number 2. All right, so let's go ahead, and I'm just going to take a little bit of the backing of the right flap off, and I've turned my page this way because I want this lined up perfectly with the right edge of the base page. So make sure you get it right up against that right edge of the base page. Make sure it's lined up also along the top and the bottom of the page. That looks good. So now I'm going to remove the remainder of the backing of the score tape and give it a nice burnish. We're going to do the same thing now with the left flap. So remember, we have this 1/8 inch gusset. So let's fold that gusset now. Fold on that score line so that gusset's against the table. So all that we have up top facing us is that 1/2 inch space. This is just going to help us get this perfectly on our base page. I'm going to peel off a little bit of the backing of the score tape. I'm going to open the right flap and then turn the whole component this way so I can get my left flap lined up perfectly against the left edge of my base page. So I'm going to lay it down. And I don't like that, so I need to fix it. Again, that's why I only tear off just a little tiny bit of the backing of the score tape at first. Sometimes though you'll need to, if you have to tear it up, sometimes you need to just add a little bit more score tape because it might lose its sticky. No big deal. Just add a little bit more score tape and then I'll peel the backing off again. Let's burnish it first though. Okay. I did not have it exactly where I wanted it, so let's fix it again here. Let's see. So we want it lined up perfectly along the left edge of our pocket page. Make sure it's also lined up against the top and bottom of the page as well. Boy, this one does not want to work for me. I'm going to try third time's the charm, right guys? Try one more time. Let's see here. Just want it perfectly so it's also even with the top and bottom of the page. There we go. Third time was the charm. Okay. And then of course we push this back on that fold line and now you have that gusset standing up. So we can fold our right flap in and we have plenty of room here because of that gusset. So that gusset really allows us to have a lot of space inside for the extra flips and flaps and doodads and whatever. Okay, so this is page 3. So we can put our little sticky note or write on it or whatever, and then let's flip this component over and now let's work on page 4. Page 4 is easy. We have 2 flaps and a pocket. Okay, that's all we have for page number 4. Super, super simple. So it looks like I forgot to add tape to a couple here, so let's just go ahead and add some tape real quick. Again, you try to plan everything perfectly, but when you go on camera, things happen. So obviously I missed a couple tapes here, no big deal. We will just add the score tape really quickly to these score lines. Okay, all right. So now let me just double check my notes here. All right, yes, okay. So what we're gonna do is let's do our 2 flaps. No, let's do our pocket first, I'm sorry. Let's do our pocket first. Our pocket's of course gonna go at the very bottom of our base page. The pocket measures 9 by 4, and then you score it 1/2 inch on 3 sides. And then you can do your optional punching if you would like to. We're gonna take, like we've been doing, just a little bit of tape off the short ends of the pocket. And we'll eventually, in just a moment, remove the entirety of the backing of the long end. So let's go ahead and make sure that this lines up straight along the bottom of our base page. And it does. That looks good. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull the rest of this backing off. There we go. Okay. So now we have our pocket, and again, open a little bit at the top for decorating purposes. We'll tear the rest of that score tape off after we have decorated. We now have a large flap, which measures 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. On the 4 3/4 inch side, we're gonna score at 1/2 inch. So go ahead and fold on that score line, burnish. I'm gonna flip my page upside down so I can get this where I want it here, and I'm gonna kind of go a little tiny bit left of center for mine. You can put yours wherever you want. I'm gonna tear off just a little bit of the backing of the score tape, and like I said, I'm going just slightly left of center. Wait a minute, this is gonna be, yep, just slightly. It looks like I'm right of center because I have it upside down, but when it's in the correct orientation, I'm a little bit left of center. It really doesn't matter though. You can center it, you can put it on the left. It's, you know, your book, your design, does not matter. Okay. So there's flap number 1. And then flap number 2 measures 3 1/4 by 4 3/4, and on the 4 3/4 inch sides, you want to score at 1/2 inch. So we're going to go ahead and fold on that score line, and then this little guy is going to go right there on the right side. Okay, so I'm going to turn my page this way, tear a little bit of the backing of the score tape off, and then just line it up with the right edge of this base page. All you want to make sure of is that it's not coming down into the pocket. It doesn't really matter where you put it. Again, just to be a little clear of the pocket. Okay, and there is that. And that is our simple page number 4. Very, very easy. Okay, so this is our second base page unit that houses pages 3 and 4, and it is complete. So we can set that aside. Now we need to grab our next base page unit, which is going to house pages 5 and 6. For page 5, we are going to start with a right flap, which is going to measure, again, same page style that we've been doing. At least the same, I'm sorry, I should say same flap style that we've been doing on some of the other pages. So it's 8 5/8 by 8. On the 8 5/8 inch sides, you're going to score at 1/2 inch and 5/8 of an inch. So go ahead and set your base page to the side for a moment while we do some things with our flap. So I'm calling this right flap, okay? Now, on this flap, we are going to have a side flap on top of it. And that is this one here, which again, I forgot some score tape. So let me just add some score tape and then I will give you the measurements quickly here. Okay, so this flap is going to go on the top of our right flap and it's going to go to the right. So up against the, the gusset. And this little flap here measures 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. Let me just make sure that's right. Yep, 4 3/4 by 6 1/4, and on the 4 3/4 inch side, you're scoring at 1/2 inch. Now, like we've been kind of doing, you have this little 1/8 inch gusset, right? So I want you to fold it so that that gusset is all on the table. So there's no gusset facing it. That way we can get this flap right nice and to the right up against this larger flap, but it won't interfere with that little gusset that we have. So I'm going to turn this way. Again, I have folded on my first score line so that the gusset's on the bottom, okay? I'm going to take this little flap now, and I'm just going to center mine. I'm just eyeballing it. You can put this wherever you like up against this right edge of this flap. Just make sure it's up against the right edge with the little gusset at the bottom, so underneath the paper. Okay, so here's our flap. Now, if we fold this back and push it back, we still have our gusset intact. So you can see we still have our gusset, and then we still have this flap. It just lays right on top of that, okay? Now, take your right flap and open it up. Okay, so pretend it's in the open position. So now we're on the back. So I'm calling this the right flap back. Okay? And on the right flap back, we are going to have a little flap that's going to measure 4 3/4 by 3 1/4. Okay. And on the 4 3/4 inch side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Let me just make sure. Yeah, 4 3/4 by 3 1/4. Again, I forgot score tape. Darn it. Let's add some score tape really quickly to our score line here. Okay. Give that a burnish. All right. Okay, so this is the back of our right flap. This is just gonna go, really, I think I'm just gonna put mine kind of up here. Just, again, you wanna stay clear of the score lines that are on the left. I'm gonna flip mine upside down so I just have a better vantage point. And just make sure it's even with the top of the flap. It really doesn't matter where you put this, except you wouldn't want to put it all the way to the left because then you're going to cover up the little notch that we made with our envelope punch board. So, anywhere from here over is perfectly fine. I'm just going to put mine a little bit left of center. It looks right of center right now because I have it upside down, but in the correct orientation, I'm a little bit left of center. Give that a varnish. Okay. So here's right flap. Little flap, right flap open, little flap. Now we have a base page that we need to attach this to. Okay, so what we're going to do again is we are going to now fold the right flap the other way so that our gusset is underneath us, and now the 1/4 inch, I'm sorry, the 1/2 inch is all that's showing. We're going to remove a little bit of the backing of the score tape and then line this up on the right side of our pocket page. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead now and get this nice and lined up. Okay, just make sure it's lined up nicely along the right edge of that pocket page. If my head gets in the camera, apologize. You just have to really get over top of this to make sure you have it exactly, you know, lined up. And then when you push this top flap to the right, there's that gusset, and now it's lined up perfectly. And the gusset gives you more room because on this base page, we are going to put 2 pockets again, like we were going to do on page 3. And they're gonna go like this. These 2 measure 5 by 5, score at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. You can do the optional cutting with the punch if you like. And then these are gonna go like that, and then this will lay on top like so. We're going to adhere these after we've adhered our design paper on this base page. So I'm gonna go ahead and do like we did before. Get a little paper clip. I'm going to write page 5, pocket, on a sticky, and then we'll just set this aside and we'll adhere this in video number 2. Okay, so we're all done with page 5. All right, so let's go ahead. You can either write with pencil or just put a sticky note with page 5. And now we can flip this unit over and we're ready to do page 6. All right, gotta check my notes, of course. All right. On page 6, we have a left and a right flap that are exactly the same size. And these 2 flaps are going to kind of make a door. And I've done this before in some of my other books. I know Daphne from Scrap and Create likes to do this too. I tend to do this in at least 1 page in my books. These 2 flaps, so they'll kind of meet in the middle. So they'll be closed up like this, and then they will meet in the middle. Okay? So, these measure 4.5 by 8 inches, and on the 4.5 inch side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. So let's go ahead and adhere these to the left and to the right. Again, make sure your paper is oriented correctly and those side pockets are on the left and the right. Of course, I'm going to be turning mine so I can get a better vantage point, but just keep that in mind so you don't put them on the wrong ends. Okay, so I'm going to do the left flap first, and I'm just going to get it really nice and lined up right against the left edge of our base page. All right, so nice and lined up against the edge of the base page. That looks good. I'm going to go ahead and peel the rest of the backing off and give it a nice burnish. I'm going to turn it this way now to do the right flap. I'm going to tear off just a little bit of the backing of the score tape. Fold it back. Okay, now I have to check this one on numerous counts. I got to make sure it's lined up with the right edge of the base page, and I also need to make sure it's lined up with its mate, the left flap. See, we want to make sure that these meet and that they're even with each other. That looks really good. I didn't think I'd get it on the first try, but of course my score tape breaks on me, so let me just see if I can. I'm going to grab my, I don't see it right now. It's okay. I'll get it off with my fingernails. Let's see here. Okay, let's just double check it before I stick that down. Yep, okay. So like I said, these meet in the middle. Okay, like so. Now, go ahead and open up your left flap. And inside here, we're going to have a small little flap, and it's going to measure 3 3/4 by 4 1/4, and on the 3 3/4 inch side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. I forgot to add score tape, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Where's my little tear? There it is. Okay. And let me just check my papers really quick. Yep, okay. So I've got this on, nice and burnished. Now I'm going to bring the base page back over. I'm going to turn it this way. This is the left flap. open, all right? And I'm just gonna put this little flap wherever. I'm gonna put mine kind of towards the bottom. I'm not gonna center it exactly. I'm gonna go a little more bottom than center. Peel off just a little bit of the backing of the score tape. And then go ahead and lay that down. Just making sure that it's nice and even with the edge of this left flap. All right, now we're gonna work on our base page. We have a flap and a pocket for our base page. Let's go ahead, I forgot again, another score tape, goodness gracious. Let's go ahead and get that down. And we're gonna go ahead and do our pocket first, actually. I just happened to notice that I didn't have score tape on it, so I wanted to fix that. Okay. All right, so our pocket, we're gonna do that first, and it measures 9 by 4. And then of course you score it 1/2 inch on 3 sides. And that's just gonna go right here. It lined up with the bottom of the base page. You want to make sure, I always like to dry fit first, which means I look at it and I place it where it's going to go before I take any tape off, because I need to make sure that it's not interfering with these score lines and that these two panels will fold perfectly, and they will. So that's no problem. So what I'm going to do now is what we've been doing. I'm just going to take a little tiny bit of the tape backing off of the small, the short edges of the pocket, and then we will take, eventually in just a moment, the entirety of the bottom, but for right now, just a little bit of the tape backing off of the bottom. There we go. Okay, so now, again, I'm just gonna double check, make sure I'm not interfering with the score lines that we create, or the flaps rather, where the flaps fold. That looks really good. So now I can remove the rest of the backing of the score tape. There we go. So that is page number 6. So we have, this is what it'll look like, closed up. Left flap will open, little flap here, right flap will open, and then we have a pocket. Last thing to add on page 6 is our flap, which is 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. You're gonna score on the 4 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. I'm going to center this along the top of the base page. So what I'm going to do is just pull off a little bit of the backing of the score tape. I'm just going to eyeball it, but again, if you want to grab this at your ruler and make sure it's perfectly centered, you are welcome to do that. I did not stick that down though, right against the top. You want to make sure you're right against the top of the page. That looks good. Okay, let's go ahead and pull that backing off, and there we go. Okay. So this is your page number 6. All right, and so now we are done with our third base page, which houses pages 5 and 6. So we can set that aside. We are moving right along, and we are now ready to grab our very last base page unit, which will house for us page number 7 and page number 8. Again, double check that orientation, make sure you know where your pockets are so they stay on the left and right when you're working. All right, so for page 7, we have a right flap. All right, so let's start with that. Our right flap on page 7 is going to be just like the other flaps we've been working with. It's going to be 8 5/8 by 8 on the 8 5/8 inch side. You're going to score at 1/2 inch and 5/8 of an inch, which again is going to create that gusset, that 1/8 inch gusset for us. And you want to put your score tape only on the 1/2 inch part, so not over the gusset. Okay, so now we have that little gusset, which is going to help us have not lots of nice room for goodies underneath the flap. All right. Next, we're going to go ahead and set your pocket page aside for a moment. You can set your right flap aside for a moment. We're going to now create a left flap, which is going to measure 6 by 8 on the 6 inch side. You're going to score at 1/2 inch. Go ahead and add your score tape there. On the left flap, I want you to open it up now. Okay, so this was the front. You folded. Now act like you're opening it up, and we're going to call this left flap back. Okay, on left flap back, we have 2 flaps. We have a large flap and a small flap. And those 2 flaps are these here. So we have the large flap number, we'll call flap number 1, and that is 4 3/4. I'm sorry, 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. And you will score on the 4 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. And then the second flap is 4 3/4 by 3 1/4, and you will score at the 3 1/4 inch side, on the 4 3/4 inch side rather, at 1/2 inch. All right, so let's see. Okay, so this is gonna go here like so. And then this one, which again, I forgot score tape, so let me fix that real quick. Okay. So I feel like I was a little discombobulated explaining that. So let me do it one more time. So we have, this is our left flap. This is how it would look closed, right? So this is our right flap, left flap, and then our base page would be underneath both of these. So we have our left flap. Go ahead and put it in the open position. And then we have a small flap, which is 4 3/4 by 3 1/4 on the 4 3/4 inch side, score at 1/2 inch. And then we have a larger flap, which is 4 3/4 by 6 1/4 on the 4 3/4 inch side. You want to score at 1/2 inch. This one's going to go down here a little ways, maybe about 1/2 inch up from the top. And then this one is going to go here. So a little bit to the right of center, but right up against the top. So let's go ahead and put this one on first. I'm going to turn my flap upside down so I have a good vantage point. I'm going to go ahead and peel off a little bit. Remember, don't interfere with the score line where it folds. But I'm still a little bit to the left well, to the right of center. It looks left of center because I have it upside down, but you'll see what I mean in a minute. Okay, go ahead and burnish that. So that's flap number 1. And then flap number 2 is going to go right here like so. So I'm going to turn it this way, and we're going to line this one up along the left side, the left edge of the left flap. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up about 1/2 inch from the bottom, and that's where I'm going to line this up. All right, peel off the rest of the backing of the score tape, and here we go. So here's our left flap. All right, so that is our left flap. Okay, now our base page, we're going to do some decorating to it, but we're not going to do any flaps or pockets. So we're going to now just attach the left flap and the right flap to our base page, and we will be done with page number 7. All right, so let's go ahead and let's turn it this way, and we're going to do the left flap first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let me think. Yeah, it goes like this. So I'm going to peel off a little bit of the backing of the score tape. And then you want to make sure that you have it right up against the left edge of that flap. I'm sorry. The flap is up against the left edge of the pocket page. All right, go ahead and burnish. Looks good. So here's our left flap with these two little guys, right? And then here's our right flap. We're going to do the same thing that we've been doing. I'm going to turn it upside down so the score tape is facing me, and I'm going to fold it on one of those score lines so that now the 1/8 inch gusset is on the bottom. So the 1/8 inch gusset's up against the table, and all I see on the top is that 1/2 inch where space where the score tape is. And now we're going to tear off a little bit of the backing of the score tape and then line this flap up with the right side of our pocket page. Once it's nice and lined up, we can go ahead and make sure it's lined up with the top and bottom too. We can go ahead and tear off that score tape backing, the rest of it, burnish that, and then if you push this back on that 1/8 inch fold, that little gusset will reappear, and now you have perfect placement. See how it's perfectly lined up against the base page? And this allows room for all of our fun stuff inside. Okay, so this is page number 7. We are almost done. We are flipping this over now, and we are on page number 8. So again, just make sure these are cleared, your side pockets are cleared, and let's move on to page number 8. Page number 8 is super easy because we actually don't have to adhere anything right now. Page number 8 is just going to be 2 more of those little pockets for our tags with some design paper, and then of course we'll do some embellishing and some fun stuff. So these again are 5 by 5, score at 1/2 inch on 3 of the 4 sides. Do your optional cutting if you like. And what I'm going to do is again adhere these after I have my design paper down on the base page. So we will just grab a paper clip, clip these together, and then we will write on a sticky note page 8 pockets. So for right now, we're actually not going to adhere anything to page number 8. Just go ahead and set these aside as well. In video number 2, where we are designing the pages with the design paper, we will actually put these pockets in. Okay, so now we can set this aside. We are done with all of our base pages. It is now time to do the inside, front, and back covers, and then we'll be done with this video number 1 of this video tutorial series. The inside front cover is very easy. If you remember in the tutorial for how to make the book, I put these covers in just to give it a more finished look. So that's why you're not seeing chipboard, in case you're wondering. So we're now going to do the inside front cover. All that we have for the inside front cover is a pocket. So very easy to do. This pocket is 9 1/4 by 4 1/4, and you're going to score, of course, on 3 sides at 1/2 inch. And it's just going to line up right at the bottom of the liner that we have put in this front inside cover. Okay, so we're going to do what we've been doing. We're just going to take a little bit off the sides of the tape backing, off the sides, and then we'll get this stuck down. Okay, so now let's go ahead and peel just a little bit off the bottom, and then we want to get this nice and lined up with that liner paper right along the bottom and the sides of the front inside cover of the book. There we go. I think that looks good, so let's go ahead and pull the tape off, or the rest of the backing, and there we go. So there's our front pocket, and that's all we're going to do on the front cover. Okay, on the inside back cover, it's a little bit busier. So we have a few components here, and let me go over them really quick. We're going to do a waterfall. 4 by 6 photos will fit perfectly on this without having to crop them. So these 4 pieces measure 6 3/4 by 4 1/4, and on the 6 3/4 inch sides you score at 1/2 inch. So go ahead and cut 4 of those, but we will not be adhering these to the book until we get to the decorating stage, because we have to put our design paper down first. But go ahead and cut them, set them aside. We have a pocket. The pocket measures 9 1/4 by 4 1/2, and you'll score on 3 sides at 1/2 inch. This pocket's going to go right along the bottom here of this inside back cover. But before we put the pocket down, we want to put our band down to hold our waterfall together. Forgot to add some score tape to this, so let me do that quickly, and then I will share with you the measurements of the band. All right, so this band measures 1 1/2 by 5 1/2, and on the 5 1/2 inch side you score at 1/2 inch. And so what you want to do before this is the first piece that's going to go down, is this little band, all right? So what you want to do is, the first piece that's going to go down, ignore that. The first piece that's going to go down is our, oh my gosh, pocket, oh my gosh. I could not come up with that word for a minute. So we're gonna go ahead and it's the same exact size as the pocket we just did on the inside front cover. So we're gonna adhere it the same way. So we're just gonna take a little bit of score tape backing off the sides, and then we'll adhere the entirety of the bottom in just a moment. So let's go ahead and pull that backing off. All right, so now we're just lining it up again along the sides and bottom of this inside back cover. Okay, looking good. Gonna go ahead and remember, when you're doing your inside, front, and back covers, you just need to steer clear of the groove here where the book bends, which we have done. So, all right. So now this band is gonna go on top of your pocket. So to figure out where to put the band, you want to figure out, we're not adhering these, but you just want to set down for just planning purposes, kind of fan your little waterfall out. It's not going to be perfect because obviously it's not stuck down, but we're just going to do a rough little dry placement of where this waterfall is going to be, okay? So you can center it, you can put it to the right, you can put it to the left. I decided to put mine right about, you know, a little left of center. Okay, so that means that my band needs to go about right here. All right, so if I could find my pencil, which it's there it is. Aha, I found my pencil. I've been missing it this whole video. Okay, I'm gonna put a little pencil mark right there just to show where the left edge of that band's gonna go. Then these, we're just gonna paper clip together and set aside because we will not be adhering the waterfall pieces until, you know, we actually get that design paper down first. So let's go ahead and adhere those. I'm just gonna put a sticky, use the same sticky that just says inside back cover, and set those aside as well. And those will go in video number 2. Now we can go ahead and put this band down. So I'm gonna go ahead and tear off the backing of the score tape. And then I'm just gonna stick this band down up against the edge of the pocket. Just make sure it's nice and straight up against that edge. All right. Okay, so that is your inside, front, and back covers, and we have all of our pocket pages done. You want to go ahead now and add your pocket pages to your book, and then come back and join me in video number 2, where we will decorate the album with this gorgeous princess paper from Graphic 45. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging in there with me. I know I had a couple pauses in this video, and a couple times I made a mistake. This is the first time I'm actually haven't made the book first, and so I'm just filming it as I go. So thanks for hanging in there with me, and I'll get better as I keep doing this, I'm sure, but this was my first go at it. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and stay tuned for video number 2 where we'll decorate, okay? So thanks for hanging in there with me, guys, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks, bye-bye.